But let's get sad.
Bring it!
Let's hope I have this memorized.
Lock us up!
Fear wears a pinstripe suit that makes him look so small. He chants, "I'm sorry," like a prayer in a religion nobody knows the name of, but everyone keeps paying tithes to. A man trying to be holy who keeps snapping the whip against his own back. A martyr, but only for an audience. He's dangerous. But you don't want him to be dangerous. You want him to be sorry, 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 just like you are always sorry, sorry, sorry. He shrinks until the suit balloons around him, until you're choking on him. And he whispers, "You think you aren't afraid of being alone, but you're lying to yourself." All shark tooth, all bite, all smile. He says, "You look good like that. Open-armed and wanting, hungry. I know a thing or two about hungry." He's in your mouth, and he is your mouth, and he is a smooth talker. A con man and a swindler, the boy you trusted right up until the moment you didn't. Fear is the hand on your belt and the breath on your back, and he's making ugly promises. He says, "It's you and me and me and me and me and me and me. You'll always be here." And he coos, "It's okay. It's okay." And he pants, "It'll just be us." And he says, "I never meant to hurt you." And you don't correct him. And you kiss him just to make him leave. I say no, so he comes on my neck and leaves. For the next 3 weeks, I dig my bones out of the mud, the banks of the river, femur, kneecap, all these punched out teeth. Twice, I put my vertebrae back in the wrong order, like misbuttoning a dress shirt. See, it's still my body, but the fit's not right. It's still my body, but the chest bows with the impression of his pelvis, and there's no getting rid of the stench. So the laundromat wants $1.75 to wash my bulky bedding, and in the dryer, I hear the clatter of all the bones too big for him to wash down the sink. Years later, I learned this lesson from my ex-boyfriend's dog. How in moments of danger, we are supposed to bark or bite or take off running, but it turns out the only tricks I ever learned were stay. Beg. Roll over.
So, now we're at the awkward part of the show where I interrupt the host. Sorry, I interrupt the feature.
You're the host.
Boo the host. This is the awkward part of the feature where I interrupt the feature. And we do this thing where we donate to the feature because like it's expensive to be here and to get here and to travel and to do this. And poets are broke, y'all. So like I know because I am one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna be hypocritical and I'm gonna put some money in here. We like the kind of jingles, but we prefer the kind of folds, all right? And I believe you have books and stuff, right?
I do.
What do you have?
I have 2 different books. I also have an audio. I have a book of
Okay, so like how much are your books?
10 and 15.
So that didn't work how I thought it was going to. Let's try. How much is the album?
The album is $5.
And the album is $5.
Oh, $5!
You can't afford not to buy it. Fucking right. And so this is the thing. So I was talking with Ashe earlier, and she informed me that she is. I'm sorry. They informed me that they are going to donate their proceeds from tonight to a very important cause. Their bills. So I want y'all to donate accordingly.
God, I love it here. All right, so anybody who's known me for any amount of time knows that I have a very complicated history with faith. I was a pastor's kid, and that's about all you need to know. But I've got some like really new shit. Like I finished this today shit. So here we go. As a pastor's kid, I've never met a God I believed in, and I met lots of gods. There was the God that was my father before the sickness, and the God that he was after. There was the God of small towns, his wrath, his flaming sword, the way he cleaved through bodies like mine, left them empty, straight, and narrow. There was the drunk man's God, the God that we build love into, who is so soft until he isn't, who crushes you in his palm and still expects you to be grateful, and you are. There was the mysterious ways God, and the everything for a reason God, and the God who turns dead friends into angels. I don't know how to talk about God in Texas, only that I do it wrong. Only that there ain't enough reverence in my scripture, but I know the God that you go to war for. Destroys families and countries, turns men into zealots, Bibles into bar stools, and gospel into the worst drunken brawl this town has ever seen. I've seen God carve another notch in the Bible belt and cinch a county line tighter. I've seen science's God, who strips out of all that scripture like peeling off her Sunday best, who lays on the cold tile floor of the universe and sings to it. I like her the most. How she looks just like the stars. How she strings molecules together like symphonies and lets us play them on our wind-up hearts. I don't want to believe that she could be the same God who pickets funerals. I want to believe in a God who builds picket fences and houses and throws open the windows to let all the light in. A God who believes in us more than we could ever believe in her. Who unpacks the hurt from our suitcase and tells us, this one's gonna be better. This one's gonna be home. And maybe God isn't the welcome, but the home. Maybe God's not in the rafters, but is the rafters. Maybe God is what holds the roof up. Maybe we make her with our bare hands, but we have to make her together. I cut my boobs off about a year ago. That was pretty rad. I was a 36 double F. It was ridiculous. I was just a walking pair of boobs. For me, this was top surgery. This was not just a reduction. This was gender affirming. But sometimes I wonder if it wouldn't have been, if I wouldn't be taken more seriously if I just gotten rid of them entirely. So this is a poem from back when I didn't have my shit together. Because sometimes I still don't have my shit together. The problem is, I still call myself a woman. And every time it drops from my mouth, the word feels like bar of soap slipping through my fingers, like fish out of water, something I wish I could reel back into myself. I call myself a woman and it feels like an accident, like a 6-car pileup just outside city limits, like you were so close to home, you were so close. You could have been exactly what they wanted you to be when the doctor said girl, and they were so happy. The problem is my gender is a language I cannot speak yet. I go wide-eyed, jealous, sticky-handed child reaching for the bodies of the strong-limbed boys I have always wanted to look like. I think of how many things I'd be willing to give up so that I could look so long, so that I could look so flat, look so sharp and so boy. But my curves are something I am not ready to be divorced of yet. I look down at my body and think, no, I won't abandon you, not again, not like the rest of them. I think, girl, you have been unwanted in so many hands. And I can't turn traitor to my own powder pink. I can't bleed the woman out of my lungs. I've tried. She does not go easy. Instead, I wear woman like a coat 2 sizes too small. It doesn't fit anymore, but it smells like home. A conversation with my father's ghost. Where is all the woman you were born with? Everywhere. I've been setting it down in pieces my entire life. This is the body that your mother and I made for you. Why isn't it good enough? It is good, but it's not finished yet. Do you wish you'd been born a boy? I wish I'd been born an ocean, alive and boundless, with a name too wild to fit in man's mouth. All right, y'all, I've only got a couple poems left.
No!
Well, technically I have 3, but 2 of them are pretty short, so I don't know if they really count. They're like one and a half poems.
They count.
Thank you. This one's pretty near and dear to my heart. If you haven't heard of the Winchester Mystery House, I highly encourage you look into it. I went there and it was incredible. So. Your dead husband stands above the fireplace with a rifle he made himself, saying, "Darling, I built this ghost story, but you gotta live in it." It is 1866, and the Winchester rifle is the best thing to happen to warfare and the worst thing to happen to Mary Winchester. But she won't know it until she's spinning a house into a catacomb, resting place for all those dead soldiers come to take their pound of flesh from the Winchester name. And ain't it just like a woman, paying for the sins of the man she fell in love with, digging out of his grave with her own 2 hands. So she moves out west, builds a house and never stops building, and it's all yellow and stairs and doors to nowhere. She's trying to outrun the ghosts her husband made for her, but she was never really any good at running, so she runs stairs straight up into a redwood ceiling, climbs out one window and in through another one, hopes all that haunting will get lost in here. When my boyfriend stacks his depression on top of me, I order 13 new rooms to hold the ghosts of his anger in, pack a little more scaffolding into my skeleton, and build this brick and mortar of a body bigger. Mary commissions the most beautiful stained glass window and hangs it in a place where no light comes in. In this way, we understand one another. It is 2016 and the ghosts of my boyfriend's ex-girlfriends won't stop crawling into bed with us. Every mistake he's ever made comes to roost in my rafters, and my whole framework buckles. He's never made a rifle, but he makes a damn good whiskey sour. I mean, gin and tonic. I mean, Bloody Mary. I mean, another beer, another night driving drunk to make me wonder just whose ghost I'm saving all this space for. I see the death of our relationship written on every wall. It starts with the word woman, ends when he no longer sees me as even human, but I build anyway, paint over it, reach out for him even when he is dead man walking, reach out for him even when he stops reaching back, starts rolling me onto my stomach so he won't have to look at me, fucks like a grave robber come to burn my crypt of a cunt to the ground. And again, he names me woman without asking. Brands girl into my skin like I am fresh off the production line. Doesn't care for what's beyond my body so long as he can be buried inside of it. Takes his pound of flesh. 100 years later, and the Winchester Mansion becomes a profiteering tourist destination, but Mary is still the only person to have ever stepped through the front door. 100 years later, and my boyfriend mounts an old Winchester rifle in the place where his heart is supposed to be and tells me to build for him, build for his broken, his bloody, his dead. But Mary, this is our house. It's full of other people's ghosts. And ain't it just like a woman to take a haunting and make it home? How am I doing on time? Do I have time for 2, like 1 minute, 1.5?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I guess, yeah, 1.5 probably, but yeah, okay. Thank you guys, this has been amazing. Again, I'm so happy to be here. Also, I'm depressed and anxious all the time, so if you saw me, yes, solidarity, thank you. If you saw me on my phone while you were reading poetry, it's because I'm an anxious piece of garbage. And I was listening, but also I'm on level 100 to 1,225 of 2 dots because your bitch gets anxious. Okay. When they talk about the tortured genius, somebody always brings up Van Gogh. How he swallowed yellow paint because he wanted to put the sunshine inside himself. How his psychosis was probably the result of lead poisoning. They call him a miracle, but what I see is a man who is so sad, he found a beautiful way to kill himself. And they say, it's awful, isn't it? They say it's always the talented ones who go before their time. We study them in school, the tortured artists. Look at all the poets who killed themselves. What would their work have been without their depression? Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it sad? As if depression were a parlor trick. Pull it out at parties, impress all your friends. As if depression isn't seeing how long you can go between showers before somebody notices, or pizza rolls for dinner 3 nights in a row and then nothing the night after because going to the store is an impossibility that you have not yet gathered the courage to conquer. It is the least beautiful thing I have ever seen, and we call it the mark of an artist. To stand in the center of an ocean and see nothing but desert. To be seated at the feast and still swallowing sand. Depression is the yellow paint. Art is a coping mechanism. Van Gogh is good because when he had nothing, he had paint. When the world was awful, he had paint. When he was empty, he had paint. When he hated himself, he didn't hate his paints. He whitewashed over his own masterpieces. Because it was never about being famous. It was about doing the one thing that made sense when everything else didn't. And they say, without his illness, we never would have had all this. Because they value his art more than his sanity. Because God forbid you lead a happy life and leave nothing to remember you by. All right, this is my last poem. It's not a very long one. I am psyched to be here. I do have merch. I have Boatman, which is one of my favorite things I've ever written. It is a poetic story about the boatman of the river Styx and the woman who wants to die, told in poems. Wrong Side of a Fistfight is a collection that I revamped, so if you actually already own this one, I promise you don't, because what this collection used to be and what this collection is now are two very different things. But I'm jazzed to be here. You guys are incredible. Thank you again. So the joke goes something like, and stop me if you've heard this one before, the joke goes something like, 2 kids with depression walk into a relationship. Now, so the bartender says, see, there isn't a bartender, because, let's be honest, they're not doing their drinking by the glass, they're doing it by the bottle. Okay. So the therapist says, oh shit, I mean, who can afford a therapist these days? But the antidepressants say, I haven't worked in 2 years, but my list of side effects is too long for you to ever leave me. I am where you learned to be needed. 2 kids with depression walk into a supermarket. 2 kids with depression walk into a doctor's office, walk into a brick wall, walk into the same bad day 365 times, call it normal. The only thing I know about the punchline is that I'm not gonna like it. That it looks like a hurricane of nothing, of repetition, of wake up, wake up, wake up, of moving just fast enough to still be considered alive, but only in the way a houseplant is considered alive, or a creeper vine. Plenty of things are still here simply because they don't know how not to be. What I mean is, suicide is not cowardice, but it is, without a doubt, an act of bravery to survive.
All right, make some noise for your feature. All right. We've come to the end of poetry night, but it is not necessarily the end of the evening. Let's say all anyway. So, I want y'all to make some noise for Mariana and for Avant-Garden, because they provided us this space. And not only tonight has she provided us this space, but she's also bought us this beautiful cake that is sitting right there. She wants everyone to come get a piece of. So before you leave tonight, I would appreciate it
all went and got a piece of cake. Now, the other thing about it is, we like to leave spaces better than we found them. So if you have any trash around you, we'd ask that you pick it up.